They called it a town hall, but it felt more like a firing squad. I was sitting dead center in the front row, third chair from the aisle, wearing the same oil-stained boots I'd worn for over 2 decades at that company. Figured it was just another strategy meeting. Maybe some nonsense about quarterly metrics or whatever new software Evan Reed was trying to shove down our throats. Then he pulled up the slide. A white screen, black font, no warning, no let-in. Just a bullet point that read, phase out, custom fabrication, Darren M., legacy position, redundant. My name, my full name, on the screen, in front of 80 people. My name looked small up there, smaller than I ever felt. Some roles, Evan said, with that smug lean he always did when trying to sound important, just don't make sense in a streamlined, automated future. No offense to the legacy folks, but we can't afford nostalgia. He didn't look at me once, not even when he said it. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I sat there frozen, my fists clenched on my thighs so hard my knuckles cracked. No one turned to me, not a glance. The same guys I trained from scratch, the ones who learned how to bend titanium with their bare hands, suddenly found their shoes really interesting. Even Brian, my own shop manager, I gave him his first job out of trade school. He wouldn't even look up. We're reallocating those funds to bolster our AI-driven production systems, Evan went on. We're not just cutting costs, we're future-proofing. Someone clapped. I think it was Tasha from accounting. Then a few others followed, like sheep. I didn't stand, didn't speak, just sat there with the taste of metal in my mouth. Rage, shame, all of it twisting in my gut like I'd been gutted. In my head, I imagined old man Preston, the founder, standing up in the back of the room, voice booming like he used to, saying, "Not him, not after 23 years. He built this floor with his hands." But there was no Preston. Just Evan, with his fresh MBA breath and buzzwords. And silence. When the meeting ended, no one said a word to me, not even a hand on the shoulder. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. Next scene, we're going to talk about what obsolete really feels like when it shows up wearing your name tag. I walked straight from the auditorium to the shop floor, jaw locked tight, head buzzing. The place felt like a ghost town. Half the bays were empty. My bench was cleared off. Even the damn stool was gone. Someone had no authority, just a sad little desk in the corner near the vending machines. Reed's voice echoed in my head, that slick, empty tone he used like everything was a sales pitch. "We're evolving the brand," he'd said when he first showed up 6 months ago. "Clients expect efficiency. Emotion's not scalable." I remember thinking, this guy's never had grease under his nails. He was 36. I wore loafers in a machine shop. Talked about synergy and disruption, like he was reading straight from a startup blog. Never touched a torch, never laid a bead of weld, but suddenly he knew what our clients wanted better than we did. I walked over to the back room, the design vault. That's where we kept all the blueprints, mock-ups, client sketches, years of ideas. Some were hand-drawn, some digital, some just jotted on napkins. Didn't matter. It was the soul of the shop. That's when Tasha showed up. Clipboard in hand, badge swinging, mouth already moving. "I need the vault keys, Darren. Evan wants everything scanned by EOD. Off-site backup." I stared at her like she'd just spit in my face. You know those builds aren't labeled for public eyes. Half of them are shorthand. You scan them wrong, they get built wrong. She rolled her eyes. "It's just protocol. We're digitizing for efficiency." "It's not a filing cabinet," I snapped. "It's a living system. You misread the spec curves on the Wilcox series, and you're looking at a 30 grand error." She didn't flinch, just held out her hand. "Keys." I handed them over, slow. Every part of me wanted to snatch them back. But that's the thing. They'd already cut me off at the knees. I was just the guy who used to matter. She walked off like she'd won something. I went back to the metal bench behind my old bay, sat down, and rubbed my hands together. Thick, calloused, cracked across the knuckles. I'd broken every finger at least once. Burned the pads off both thumbs, welding late into the night. Built machines that ended up in magazines. Hell, we'd done a build for a prince in Dubai. Had to custom fit it for desert sand torque. Didn't matter now. They weren't just replacing me. They were scrubbing the fingerprints off everything I ever touched. That night, I didn't sleep. Just sat at the kitchen table, staring at those same busted hands, still stained with grease in the cracks. Tools gone, files gone, respect gone. Evan Reed wasn't cutting costs. He was cutting history, and he didn't even know what he was throwing away. The next morning, I got in before sunrise. No lights on, no footsteps yet. Just the hum of the vending machine and the faint smell of cutting oil still clinging to the air. I went straight to locker 38. Mine since day one. The dent on the bottom left corner was from the time I dropped a crankcase on my foot. I never fixed it. Inside was the wooden box. It didn't look like much. Scuffed oak, rusted latch, no label. But inside, my grandfather's calipers. My father's hand-filed micrometer. My personal angle gauges and bore checkers. Tools you couldn't buy anymore. Stuff with soul. I tucked the box under my arm, shut the locker, and turned around. And there he was. Evan Reed, perfectly timed, perfectly dressed, with that same arrogant smirk he wore like cologne. "You're not supposed to be here yet," he said, arms crossed. "I'm still on the schedule," I said. "Last week." He shook his head. "That's changed. You're being placed on administrative leave effective immediately. HR will send the final paperwork." I took a step forward. "Why? I haven't broken any protocol." He didn't blink. "We just think it's best." I stared at him hard. "You don't even know what you're doing, do you? That design vault? You've got specs in there that can't be automated. You misread those tolerances, and you're not looking at a late delivery. You're looking at a lawsuit." Evan gave me this slow, fake smile. "Progress always upsets the traditionalists. We'll adapt. You think a machine can interpret a client's feel for torque on a downhill curve?" I snapped. "Do you even know what a feathered weld looks like? You're not adapting. You're guessing." He looked down at my box. "Make sure that's not company property." I didn't answer. I walked past him without another word. Let him have the last smirk. He'd earned it, all that fake charm, backed by zero skill. I took the long way to my car, cutting through the old design bay. It hadn't been touched in weeks, dust on the tabletops. My old chair flipped upside down, like someone was in a hurry to erase me. I popped open the box on a workbench and laid everything out. Then I pulled the second envelope from the false bottom. 20 years of sketches, client preferences, handwritten formulas, calibration notes. Everything the machines couldn't replicate. My phone buzzed. Text from Ryan, one of my former apprentices. "Machine trashed a 300K Wilcox build. Torque curves off by a mile. No one knows how to recalibrate." I stared at the screen, thumb frozen. My heart didn't race. My blood didn't boil. I just felt this cold clarity, like standing in a burned-down house and finally seeing which beams still held. I didn't want revenge. I didn't care about dragging anyone down. But if they were gonna bury the truth, I'd make damn sure it clawed its way back to the surface. After that morning with Reed, the shop felt like a tomb. I went home and waited for whatever came next. I was still staring at Ryan's text when I heard the knock. Not a polite knock. The kind with authority behind it. I knew it before I opened the door. HR. Eleanor stood there holding a thick envelope, her expression tight, like she already knew this was gonna suck. "Hey, Darren," she said, stepping inside like we were old friends. "Can we talk for a sec?" I motioned toward the table. "Go ahead, you're already here." She sat, slid the envelope across to me. I didn't open it. 6 weeks severance, she said, plus standard NDA paperwork. "You'll be required to not talk about how they toss me like scrap metal," I cut in. Her mouth twitched, but she didn't deny it. She leaned forward, lowered her voice. "Off the record, that new system already blew a 7-figure deal with that Japanese luxury account. You remember Kaneko Bikes?" I nodded slowly. "That client was meticulous. They used to fly in engineers just to test ride the builds. They sent back the prototype," she said. "Said it didn't feel human. Their words." I smirked. "Because it wasn't. The Wilcox template was built for precision weld by hand, not AI drag and drop." Eleanor sighed. "Reed's blaming sabotage. He's saying your old crew manipulated the software. Claims it's some loyalty stunt." I stood, walked to the window. "That guy couldn't read a pressure gauge if it had subtitles." She stayed quiet for a minute. Then she stood up. "Look, I don't agree with how this went down, but I can't stop it. I'm just here to deliver this." I turned back. "So you're just the messenger?" "I'm the cleanup crew," she said flatly. "And this mess is growing." She walked out without another word. I didn't follow. That night, just after 10, my phone buzzed again. Anonymous number, one sentence. "All design archives digitized, originals being boxed up." I didn't respond, just stared at the words. Offsite meant untouchable. Once those files were gone, the machine templates would be the only version of the work left. No more drawings, no more handwritten tweaks, no more craftsmanship, just automation errors wrapped in glossy charts. They weren't just rewriting the process. They were wiping the origin story. I didn't sleep. I stayed up sketching, flipping through old notebooks, mapping out what I knew still mattered. By sunrise, I had a plan. Not half-baked, not revenge-driven, clean, intentional, long game. I called Bernard Knox. Bernie ran Knox Precision, a boutique custom engineering outfit in Flagstaff. We met years ago during a trade show in Phoenix. I'd designed a dual suspension mod that made his jaw hit the floor. We kept in touch after that. Shared beers, shop stories, old school ideas the world kept trying to automate out of existence. When he picked up, I didn't waste time. I've got 10 major clients ready to move. Long-term work. All custom, all high margin. But I don't want a job. I want a shop. He chuckled. Morning to you too, Darren. I'm not playing anymore, I said. They booted me. Tried to wipe my name off 23 years of work. I'm not coming back from that. I'm building past it. All right, he said, intrigued now. Tell me. Most of them didn't even know I was gone. No press release, no client notice. But once I make the call, they'll walk. He leaned back, tapping the cover with one finger. And what do you want from me? 2 things, I said. Workspace and supply lines. Just enough to get rolling. I'll take care of labor, design, contracts. He raised an eyebrow. Not asking for a salary? Nope. You're not cheap, Darren. I'm not desperate either, I said. You back me, I stay out of your core. No competition on shared clients. But I want full control of mine. Total creative freedom. He nodded slowly. What's in it for me? 10% of all gross from my pipeline, and first right of refusal on overflow contracts. Bernie grinned. You've had this in your back pocket, haven't you? I shrugged. Only since last night. We shook on it by dinner. Next day, I called the company back and told them where they could shove their offer. Some HR rep tried to frame it like a contractor opportunity, said they'd give me project scraps to stay involved. I told her, I'm not picking meat off a carcass. I'm building the damn engine. That week, I set up inside one of Bernie's secondary bays, stripped it down to basics, weld rig, drafting table, my old tools, a new lock on the door. By Friday, I had 5 contracts signed, all former clients. Every one of them said the same thing. Wait, they let you go? I just smiled and handed them the pen. By the end of the second week, the calls started. Quiet ones, from burner numbers. Guys I hadn't heard from since the day they all stared at their boots while I got axed in front of the whole company. Hey, Darren, can we talk? One by one, they reached out. Not looking for handouts, just wanting to work. Real work, with tools and touch and pride. Half of them said they couldn't sleep at night, watching machines screw up builds they used to finish with their eyes closed. Word had spread, not just inside. Clients started talking too. The big one came Thursday morning. Legacy client. One of the originals. They had ordered a $1 million anniversary edition bike, high-grade titanium frame, custom leather work, my signature double-stack suspension mod. Been planning it for a year. They pulled the order, flat out rejected the prototype, said it felt soulless, said they only trusted my hands, said if I wasn't touching it, they weren't buying it. That same afternoon, I got a call from a blocked number, deep voice, real polite. This is Jim from the board. The directors would like to meet with you, privately. I knew exactly what was coming. I cleared my calendar and showed up the next morning. Jeans, work shirt, and the original contract in a manila folder under my arm. The boardroom looked exactly the same as the day they handed Evan the reins. Long walnut table, leather chairs, wall of TVs no one needed, cold air and colder people. Evan sat at the end, looking like a rooster who just realized the hen house was on fire. Sweat on his brow, tie too tight. I walked in and dropped the folder in front of me, sat down, didn't say a word. Evan jumped first. We have a serious issue. Darren has knowingly poached clients, protected clients during his transition out. His actions have cost us a multi-million-dollar order and compromised proprietary design processes. He looked around like he was waiting for applause. I kept my hands folded. You done? A few board members shifted in their chairs. Darren, one of them said carefully, we just want clarity. Did you reach out to these clients while under contract? I flipped the folder open and slid the paperwork across the table, highlighted section on page 6. This is my original employment agreement, signed by your legal team. Clause 17. In the event of termination without cause, the employee retains rights to all unpatented build techniques, client relationships directly initiated by said employee, and original design methodologies not previously filed in the company intellectual property. Silence. I let it hang. Every client I took came through me. Every build method I used was developed off hours, in my own garage, years before you ever installed a touchscreen. Evan leaned forward, sweating harder. That's not how it was interpreted. I smiled. Then you should have read it better. One of the board members flipped through the contract. A woman I remembered from back in the early days. She nodded. It's valid. Evan's eyes went wide. But he's sabotaging us. He's undermining... No, I said. I'm reminding the world that craftsmanship isn't code you can copy and paste. They didn't argue. I stood, grabbed my folder, and turned to leave. That's when one of them asked, Darren, are you open to discussion about how we might rebuild something together? I didn't answer. Not yet. But I knew the leverage had shifted. The moment Reed opened his mouth, it all tipped my way. He brought machines to replace people. I brought proof that you can't automate trust. They called again the next day. Different tone this time. Softer, smoother. Like they were trying not to spook the horse, they just realized they needed to pull the cart. We'd like to formally offer you a leadership position, the board rep said. We're developing a new artisan division, something focused on handcrafted legacy builds. Your expertise would be invaluable. I let that hang for a second, then answered without blinking. No. Silence. I'm not coming back under your roof, I said, but I'll make you a counteroffer. I met them again in that same boardroom, same long table, minus one smug little loudmouth. Evan Reed was out on leave, according to the assistant who let me in, probably locked in some glass office spinning excuses for shareholders. I walked in with a binder and a plan. My shop stays independent, I said, flipping to the first page. You want elite builds? You subcontract them through my atelier. We'll deliver one-offs, signature pieces, whatever you can't mass produce. But I run it my way. No middle management, no automation, no approvals from people who don't know the difference between a TIZ weld and a burrito wrap. One of them tried to jump in. I shut it down fast. Also, I want exclusive rights to 5 clients, the ones I brought in personally. You don't pitch them, you don't service them, you don't breathe near them. Preston Jr., the current CEO, cleared his throat. That's a lot of independence. You want quality or control? I asked. Because you clearly can't manage both. He sat back. Didn't argue. I flipped to the last page. And lastly, any build methods I pioneered stay with me. You don't log them, claim them, or teach interns to butcher them. You want that quality, you pay for it. Piece by piece. They murmured, whispered, flipped through pages like it was up for debate. But we all knew where this was going. By Friday, the press release dropped. Strategic misalignment results in executive transition. Evan Reed to pursue new opportunities. Translation. Booted. Preston tried to spin it on LinkedIn. Some corporate fluff about evolving focus. But anyone who'd been around long enough knew what happened. You let the heart of the company rot out. Eventually, the whole frame collapses. I didn't gloat. Didn't need to. I had work to do. Back at my shop, I started hiring. Not resumes. People. Real people. Mechanics who still shape steel by hand. Designers who sketched with pencils first. Folks who didn't care about stock options. Just the soul of the machine. First guy I called was Jorge, a welder I'd trained 10 years ago. Got chewed up by management when he pushed back on AI-integrated builds. He showed up the next morning with his own torch and 0 questions. Then came Rachel, detail work specialist. Used to run the finishing line before Evan stripped it down. She walked through the shop, touched one of the old custom tanks and said, "You kept the curves." I hired her on the spot. They came in quietly, but their work was loud, precise, honest, no shortcuts. Every day that passed, the other place faded. Clients stopped calling it the company. They just said, "We're with Darren now." And that was the truth. They had the logo, I had the legacy. 6 months later, my shop was humming, and not from machines. We had a 6-month backlog. Clients didn't complain, they waited, they wanted to. Said the delay meant it was real, not rolled off some factory line pretending to be custom. I had 2 apprentices, Jaden and Theo, 19 and 21. Sharp minds, faster hands, and more respect for the trade than most men twice their age. That afternoon, I was showing Jaden how to feather a weld on a titanium joint without warping the lower frame. Theo watched from the side, notebook open, eyes focused like a hawk. Yanaya tapped the rod just right and said, "You feel it before you see it. That's the difference." The door buzzed. I turned, wiped my hands, and stepped into the front office. And there he was, Davis Crane. 3 years ago, he told me he didn't believe in manual craftsmanship, said computers didn't make mistakes, people did. Now he was standing in my shop, hat in hand. "Darren," he said, a little stiff, "I need something special." I didn't smile, just nodded. "We build soul here, not just bikes." He looked around the shop. You could tell it hit him different now. The smell of steel and sawdust, the rhythm of real work. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I came." We shook hands, and I handed him a clipboard. An hour later, Bernie Knox pulled up in his old Silverado, still wore that sun-beaten leather jacket like it was armor. He walked the floor, watched Jaden tack a frame, gave Theo a nod of approval. "You built something real here," he said. I poured us both black coffee, no cream, no sugar, just strong and bitter like we liked it, and handed him a mug. We didn't toast with champagne. We didn't need to. I looked around the shop, the tools, the noise, the smell, the people, and I knew right then, this wasn't revenge. This was preservation of the work, of the name, of me. Evan tried to delete me with a slideshow, but you can't delete craftsmanship. Not when it lives in your hands. Would you have taken the leadership role back, or walked away like Darren? Drop your answer in the comments. We want to hear it. And if you like the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.